In this video I am going to show you how I made a 9.5 meter by 4.25 meter concrete pool by myself that I worked on for 1200 hours, spending around 4100 USD. I have tried to put together a detailed and interesting video, but it still contains parts where I just dig and shovel. At the end of 2021 I have decided that I'm gonna make one of my biggest dreams come true. Building a pool by my own hands and from my own design. I knew it won't be cheap, so I saved up half a year of my salary. I had 5000 USD for the whole project. That was the goal. I was able to save up some money because at the end I finished with exactly 4128 USD. Since I wanted it to be as cheap as possible, I didn't want to spend on machinery, so I grabbed my trusty shovel and started digging all the 100 cubic meter crater for the 60 cubic meter pool. I'm gonna be honest, I wouldn't do it one more time. It's a very exhausting work. If you ever want to make a pool, don't be cheap and spend some money for the machines. I saved up around $500 with it, but I was shoveling for 3 months whenever I got time after my 8-hour shifts. At first I thought it's gonna be easy. It wasn't. I was really tempted sometimes just to rent a smaller excavator. Getting rid of the dirt wasn't a problem for me. There was some potholes in my yard which I filled up and also made the flat area a bit bigger around the house. Though my cherry tree was still in the way, so I had to get rid of it. Rest in peace, cherry tree. I really had to think through where to actually put the pool, not just eyeball it. Since I didn't want it to cut off my walnut tree, I tried to make a use out of it and made it so the crown makes a shadow to the stairs at the hottest part of the day. I also thought about the leaves and how they won't fly into the pool. I was also looking for the sun so the water can get light almost all the time to keep the water nice and warm. For some reason I also wanted it to be parallel to the house. I tried to manage the shoveling so putting the dirt in the cart will be easy, so I left this tiny island in the middle. This will be the last part I get rid of. Here I am going to start to talk about what I would have done differently. After I got it done, I thought it would have been way easier to leave one of the walls stand out from the ground. It would have been easier to work on during the cementing and looked much more cooler. Though the finished product is also good. The ground was pretty easy to work on, mostly sandy. At some deeper parts I felt the dirt getting harder, but it still wasn't a nightmare. It's not very visible, but the ground is not exactly leveled. I wanted to make the edges stand out from the ground, so I only have to dig 1.5 meter deep. With a 30 centimeter thick reinforced concrete base and 6 layers of formwork stone, the height was at 138 centimeters. Therefore, 20 centimeter difference from the deep. My cart died in the process. Rest in peace, cart. I'm just kidding, I welded it. I wanted to put the water circulation pump underground in a 1 meter by 1 meter pit so air leak won't cause any problems to it. For the sake of the symmetry and all the viewers with ADHD, I also planned it in the middle right next to the pool. I mostly use 50 by 25 by 23 centimeter formwork stones for the pool and 15 by 50 by 23 centimeter for the previously mentioned pit. Since I wasn't planning cutting these stones, I made the stairs 23 centimeter high. I don't know how tall stairs are at average and I thought 23 will be a bit high for it, but it turned out pretty comfortable. I wanted the pool to be as simple and minimalistic as humanly possible. I ordered some resources before I even finished the pool. The cement for the 25 centimeter thick concrete base and the formwork stones came first. I kinda underestimated how much concrete I need on the bottom. I did the math, but somewhere I must have screwed up because I needed almost 9 cubic meters instead of just 8 cubic meters. I got the steel net too. All of these resources costed me 1500 USD so far. Do you remember that little island I left to make my job easier? Say goodbye to it, because it needed to go. I think shaping the stairs was the hardest part of this whole process. I had to be very precise. Then, after 3 hard months, there was a very big hole in my backyard. Here comes the fun part. Plumbing. I bought 50 meters of polyethylene pipes. 6 pieces of 25mm wide pipes was enough to the bottom. Finally, I was able to start with the bottom. These boards had to be leveled very precisely. If it isn't leveled, nothing will be. I had a lot of issues with the pipes. It was very hard to lay every single one by myself, trying to keep them as straight as possible. After I finished, again, I realized that I should have done it differently. Maybe putting the pipes to the stairs and the skimmer, then maybe the circulation would have been much efficient. Then the issues came. At the end of the year, after I finished, I filled the pool just to see if it keeps the water. When the pipes were in, they were straight, but after I poured the cement, it probably bent them. There was still some water at the bottom of the slightly curved pipes and they froze. This made the pipes to broke and water to leak out. On the 31st of April, the bottom part was finished. I was ready to get my cement mixer and start the next month on the glorious work holiday of socialism with the hardest part. But the universe had some words to it as well, and I broke my knee. So I got to work on something else. With a broken leg, I could only do stuff while sitting. I ordered the smaller parts like the circulation pump, some more pipes, taps, etc. It was very sad to see that half finished hole for over 6 weeks. Just like the backyard, in my heart, there was a big hole that needed to be filled. The doctor said 6 weeks for the recovery. I thought I'm going to finish it this summer like I originally wanted to, but it didn't happen. It was delayed by a whole year. The sand filter arrived. I wanted to make it by myself as well from an acid-proof tank and pump, but there were some complications, so I had to buy one. Though it was also smaller than I wanted it to be, I made some adjustments to it. When I ordered it, it was only capable to do 7 cubic meter per hour. Now it's 11 to 12 cubic meter per hour. Not bad if you ask me. My leg was still broken, but I still had some stuffs I can do while I recover. I made this funky little looking pipe system with a valve at the end. This is going to be attached to the pump. A quick visit to the hospital and my leg was free from its prison. Because it still wasn't 100%, I hired free laborers to help me with the cementing. Obviously on their off days, so they can enjoy weekend peacefully.
Krisztián, mit üzensz a 10.000 követőmnek? Svági?
Vicceljenek, ne jöjjetek! Vicceljenek!
I never thought that this whole process would be this hard. I had to watch out to everything. The bricks, the net, the pipe, which at the end broke anyways, and balancing the cart and the planks. I calculated that I needed around 8 cubic meters cement for this, but I didn't realize that though I watched for the level of the planks, I didn't level the ground. So in some places it was a 25 centimeter thick, on some other places 35 centimeter. This costed me an extra 2 cubic meters cement. But the most important thing, the bottom is now water level.
Nyilatkozzon Zoltán! Nem nyilatkozik, jó.
Because I wasn't capable of mixing this huge amount of concrete until I finished with one end, the other already started to set. It will probably be fine, but again, it would have costed me around 300 USD just to get a mixer that is big enough for the whole thing. It would have been more prettier and easier, but at the end I still was satisfied with the results. I was surprised how big of a job is to get all the formwork stones to their place. The pit was especially hard since it's just a small hole. This is going to be my biggest video yet. I wanted to do something very big that could cause my channel to blow up in YouTube for those people who are interested in this kind of crafts, while I am also able to live off my creative side. I have searched through a lot of DIY pool videos and I saw that they got a lot of views. I wanted to make a pool for a long time now, why not make a video out of it? I wanted to make a pool for a long time now, why not to make a video out of it? I couldn't lose too much. Worst case scenario, I'm going to have a pool. You remember that I said I had to buy more concrete? It still wasn't enough. I couldn't finish with everything that I needed it. So I got to something else, laying down the first layer of stone bricks. The remaining 0.5 cubic meter cement was the part that I did alone. I only needed help with the bigger parts like the bottom or the For the second step, I tried to use leftover stuffs like formwork stone and linoleum. It was much nicer looking. It was way easier with the hard stone and I made it much smoother looking with the linoleum. We got to the third layer. This is where the lamp's going to go. Yes, it even has lamps. Because I couldn't find pool lamps in a price that was very affordable, I had to make them myself. Some polyethylene pipe, plexiglass, and the light bulbs themselves saved me from spending 700 USD for the 7 lamps. What did I pay for these? 80 bucks. After I finished and tested it, I can safely say it's alright. No water leaks, it's just perfect. I think I'm going to make a separate video about these. I used up around 230 bags of cement for the whole pool. I know it must be boring to see me getting rid of the housing of the stairs, but this is my favorite part. After all the work, seeing the stairs, how it turned out, makes the whole work look amazing. The pool itself sits deeper than the pit, so I finished with that at 5 layers of formwork stone. Stairs are done. Now the last touches to the side and we are done with the biggest part. The skimmer is a 110 square centimeter pipe that is going into the pit. Not to brag or anything, but I didn't have to touch the top part after I finished because it turned out to be perfectly level. Only 4 mm difference on a 9.5 meter long line. I think it's a pretty good job. And done. So I can call some more help.
Vannak sztár vendégeink, Ervinem, hozzájárulsz, hogy a 10.000 feliratkozón megcsodáljon? Dávidom, betonkeverő mester, Csimulász biztos, hogy sztárnak született. Hozzájárulsz, hogy sztár legyél, hogyha esetleg 20 millióan megnézik ezt a videót?
Én tudom, hogy sztár vagyok, ezzel nincs mit vitatni.
Kiti meg nem járul hozzá. Jó, milyen fél lábban megtamazni. Kicsit el lett matakozva, ebbe itt van 230 cement. Aztán még megy bele bőven. Nem adta ki. Sajnálatos. Nem adta ki? Nem. Előfordul. És még nem sötétedett be, szóval még munkálatok folynak.
It was 40 Celsius outside, so I had to water the concrete. I decided to make the manhole myself. Instead buying one for about 55 USD, I finished with it around 13. As you can see, I'm cutting corners wherever I can. I'm gonna use linoleum for the formwork as well. If it was such a great idea for the stairs, it's gonna work here too. Yep, nice and smooth. We got to the part that I think it was the hardest, making it watertight. I spent a lot of time thinking about what to do exactly. I could have buy pool foil, but that would be expensive compared to how long it will hold up. I didn't trust plaster because the wall is made out of bricks. It's going to crack eventually. So I choose an option that nobody on the internet mentioned, laminating 2 layers of fiberglass. I realized why no one mentioned this. It's a hell of a job and it doesn't even look pretty. If I could do it again though, I think I could make it a bit more nicer looking. I used a polyester-based synthetic resin with 500 grams per square meter glass fabric. I had to do this whole process during the night because the resin will set under the heat of the sun. I got to this part during the summer, but maybe in any other season it will be okay to do this during the day. Regardless, it was the cheapest material to use, around 17.5 USD per square meter. For the 80 square meter that I needed, I paid 1,400 USD, which still would not cover the pool foil. Also, compared to the pool foil, it's stronger, with a longer lifespan, and it's repairable. Though I forgot to plaster the formwork stone, so all the little damages on the wall is visible. It still hurts my eye to see those small cracks and whatnot. It didn't look this ugly before I applied the insulation. It's very hard to work with this stuff. It took me 5 nights to get it done and it's hard to wash for all the stuffs in the dark, like air bubbles and the connections of the bricks.
Reggel 5 óra van. Most végeztem. Hát elég hosszú éjszaka volt. Ez lett az eredmény.
Choosing the color took me a week. I was dreaming with the Arial color scale. All of my friends was talking about the Arial scale. I chose the Arial 5015 color. It's dark enough so the sunlight will heat it up, making the water warmer, but not so dark it looks like I have a black hole in my backyard. Insulating the smaller parts around the pool felt quick and easy. Too easy. Of course I had some problems with it. Water leaked around the housing of the lamps, a lot of water. Thank God it didn't get into the lamp itself. The electrical stuffs like the 3-watt lamps and safety grounded costed 2 USD. I painted the top coat 10% with the Arial 5015. It's a very strong UV and chemical proof paint. It got 2 layers, but in the near future I want to apply a 3rd layer. Just like the resin, it is very reactive with the weather and the sunlight. It sets almost as fast as the resin. I used up like 15 paint rolls just to get the 2 layers done. The paint in these roll sets because of the rolling motion generates enough heat to do so. So I was able to use a roll for 20 minutes until it turned rock solid. I tried to work with it during the day, but it set instantly. That's how hard to work with this stuff. As you can see here, I wasn't able to finish with the first layer. I ran out of rolls, but luckily I found some on sale that had these longer hairs. I bought like 12 more, and while I was out shopping I bought some more pipes and the filtering sand. I mixed 1% catalyzer into the paint. At max I was able to mix out 500 milliliters, so I had to hurry, only because I had to do it during the day, though in the morning there were some shades that I can hide in, so it was a bit easier to work. The finish, in my opinion, looks beautiful, regardless of the small problems that is still visible on the walls. I was satisfied with my work even after the first layer. At this point I saw the end of the whole project. First, I cleaned out the pit for the filter and the pump. It will be very hard to work there if it's filled up with dirt and debris. Getting the pipes down there was harder than it looks like. They wasn't exactly straight, so I had to put them in a way so they can fit. Thanks to the magic of editing, you won't see me struggle with this part. I am going to show you how I made the lamps. I cut holes into these PVC pipe ends that is exactly as big as the spotlights. Then I cut a hole into a thin plastic piece that is gonna hold the light bulb itself in the center. I struggled a lot with this part too, but editing makes it look like I didn't. I put an O-ring on all the bolts and nuts just in case. I made these precautions after I recorded this part, but trust me, they are there. I used a 4-wire cable because my original idea was to use RGB lights, but I stuck with the nice and the legend cold white lights. It is way prettier. I connected this whole part to the house so I can reach it with Wi-Fi. So I can start the pumps and the filters or set timers for them from inside the house as well. I put the cables into some leftover pipes and buried them. I could have got them deeper into the ground, but it without watering the pool, the 7 pieces of 7-watt LED lights seems a bit much, but when I filled it, it turned out to be very pretty. In my opinion, it looks as good as a store-bought pool light. Then I had to wait a year for the next pool season to start and finally try it out. In the spring I decided to give it an extra coat. It removed most of the surface problems, but it's still visible here and there. In the fall I'm going to give it one last layer and it's gonna be perfect. Finally, I installed the manhole and the sand filter. Because I was lazy to build my own, I installed this small one. After trying it out, it turned out pretty effective for this pool. On paper, it could handle 7 cubic meter per hour water flow, so I upgraded it a bit. Now it's able to do 10 cubic meter per hour. Not bad for a small sand filter. Then the time came to try it out. I filled it up. Sadly, there was 3 problems that caused leaks. This took me 2 weeks to find. It caused me a huge trauma and I still have flashbacks from it, so I rather don't talk about it. It was all because I wasn't careful enough. One of the problems was with the fiberglass, the other by applying the cement on the bottom and the pipes in it. The last one was around one of the lamp where water got through the tiles, leaking right next to the housing of the lamp. Whatever, now I found these problems and quickly fixed them. It's hard to admit, but I wasted around 110 cubic meter water. So I decided to get myself a well. There is gonna be a separate video of that too. Hit that subscribe if you want to see it. I installed a grounding probe, just in case, as well as 2 more plugs, one for the pump, one for the lights.
Mehetőzés közben is. De azt nem értem, rajta így volt a hátam, mint egy pók, bazd meg, és... Mert a felhajtó erőt nem győzi le a lehajtó.